we have Garth Turner, Member of Parliament from Halton and Special Advisor to our leader. Garth, welcome to my MP report today.
Excellent, Sukh. Thank you very much for having me here. I appreciate it.
It's a pleasure. Garth, you were in my riding of Newton North Delta recently in a town hall meeting, and we have talked to my constituents. Would you like to share the discussion that we had at that time with my constituents and British Columbian and Canadians here?
Well, of course, Sukh, and I enjoyed being in your riding a lot. We had a very good meeting. It was in a little hall, and it was packed. We had lots of people there, and they had lots of questions. One of the things that I wanted to talk to people about was the economy, where we're headed, what people want to happen with taxes, how people feel about who are income trust investors. A lot of people have felt that the Harper government has not exactly delivered what they thought they would get from a Conservative government. So we covered a lot of those topics in your meeting, and people were very engaged. They seemed very interested in talking about where taxes should be cut, in where the real estate market's going, because in the lower mainland of BC, of course,
it's booming prices.
Everybody's a millionaire who's got a house. I know that, Sukh. But people are very concerned about where the economy is headed and whether Mr. Harper has the right formula or not. We've got a government in office right now that is spending a huge amount of money. The United States is in a bit of a recession. There are some current concerns that we keep the economy strong in your part of Canada and mine as well. And so people are I think, very interested in those issues. And that's definitely what we talked about in your town hall meeting.
And both, like yourself and myself, you know, coming from a fiscal background, that we want to see a strong economy, and people like to see more money in their pockets. Would you like to comment on the present Conservative policy on these tax issues?
It's a very important issue, Sukh, and we talked about this in your town hall meeting. Whether people want to see a GST cut or an income tax cut. Now, all of us want to see lower taxes. I think everybody, you and me, my constituents and yours, everybody wants lower taxes. But how do we lower it? And with the GST cut, it's a very small amount of money that people see on the purchases every day, and yet they're still paying high income taxes. So the question is, do people want a choice in how they're taxed? If we give people more money in their paychecks, and then when they go and spend it, they'll be making a choice when they spend money to pay the tax, but they'll have more money in their paycheck. I think from an economic point of view, there is much more of an economic, a fundamental economic improvement by giving people more money in their paychecks than just cutting spending.
And they can spend more, like if they have more in their pockets?
Yeah, and also a GST cut actually does benefit people who are better off. I mean, you and I as members of Parliament, we do okay. We make a good salary. We're above the average. So when you and I have a GST cut, it's better for you and me than it is for most of the constituents, because the average family who's making around $60,000 a year compared with somebody who's making $150,000, the person who makes more money, they're going to save more money in the GST. So it's not as fair. By giving everyone an income tax decrease, we particularly help families. And that's what I'm concerned about. Mortgage rates have gone up, real estate's gone up, gas is $1.10 a liter now. The families are under a lot of financial stress. How do we help them the most? That's what we should be thinking of in Parliament, and that's where I think an income tax cut is #1 thing we can do.
Garth, you talked about the income tax cuts. If we look at the present government, in their first budget, they said they are cutting the taxes. In fact, they raised from 15 to 15.5, and now they're saying, again, they have tax cuts, and they brought it down to 15. In fact, if we look at it in 2 years, would you like to comment on that they're at the same level?
Oh, Sukh, I mean, this mini budget we just had was complete political spin. You know, Mr. Flaherty stood up there, we're cutting income taxes, Conservatives are bringing it down. Well, you're absolutely right. In the first budget that Mr. Flaherty brought in, one of the first things he did was raise income taxes. And then in his second budget, he raised them again. So all the Conservatives are doing now is bringing them down. Why are they bringing them down? Because they won an election. And they know that if we form the next government, and we probably will, but when we form the next government, they know that we'd be bringing those income taxes back down. That's what Liberals believe in, lower income taxes. So the Conservatives, unfortunately, have been caught in this lie, and they're doing what they have to do for political reasons. But nonetheless, I'm glad they're coming down a little bit.
You talked about, when we form the next government. When we form the next government, and you being a special advisor to the leader now, you advise the leader and his close associates day in, day out. I being the critic for competitiveness in the new economy, this is a very important issue these days. How would you deal differently than the present Conservative government when it comes to that portfolio? Well,
Sukh, in your portfolio is so important right now, because one of the big challenges we face with the Canadian dollar going higher and higher is we're becoming less competitive, because we have 70% of all of our manufactured goods are exported to the United States, and right now the cost of everything has gone up because our dollar is higher. So our exports are less competitive. There are a number of things we need to do right now. The Minister of Finance has got to be meeting with industries that are affected right now and try and find ways of doing it. We have to cut corporate taxes. We have to allow corporations to be writing off the cost of their equipment more quickly. We need to be bringing in more skilled workers from other countries in order to help the problems we have with our labor force. And we need to be reducing interest rates in order to cut the burden on not only consumers but on corporations. So there are a number of things that we can do. The Bank of Canada can be doing more, I think, to bring the value of the dollar down, even by talking about the fact that our currency is too high. Generally, that will bring things down. So there's a measure of packages that we would implement as a government in order to stabilize the currency, not to crash it, just stabilize it. Because when the currency goes up 30% in a year, businesses can't cope.
No.
Nobody can cope. And that's a failure on the part of the government. So there are a number of things that we would and could do, and right now we're begging Mr. Flaherty to do it. I don't think he gets it, though.
Well, thank you very much, Garth, and sharing your thoughts and your expertise with my constituents of Newton North Delta. And we will look forward to seeing you back into the riding sometime in future as well. And it was a pleasure having you. And keep up with the good work that you're doing for all Canadians.
Thank you. And Sukh, thank you for your work on behalf of your constituents and our party here in Ottawa. It's a tremendous contribution you're making. Thank you.
Thank you again.